So we finally have someone with a set of balls finally has the guts to come out and say what we were all thinking, that Israel Adesanya is fucking shit. That he's just not that good. Who is it? It's Sean Strickland.
Oh no!
Is it an unpopular opinion? No, but that's what the shills will lead you to believe. And just as a little side note, because I keep on using and referencing the word shill, what does it mean? A shill is a person who acts as a spokesperson or a promoter of something. So not an objective journalist within the MMA community, a promoter, a gaslighter, a subjective journalist who promotes a certain fighter. And as I keep on saying, Israel Adesanya falls under the bracket of one of them guys who needs to be protected, so they pitch him to you constantly. They serve as a promoter for him. That's what I mean when I say shill media. So Sean Strickland was on a podcast last night and he actually went in on a lot of people, but he certainly went in on Israel Adesanya. But just as a juxtaposition to what I'm talking about here, it's very interesting to see how the MMA community will react to Sean Strickland telling what I believe to be the truth. And it's not just me. I have a bunch of articles pulled up there and I did the smallest amount of research and I got a lot of feedback from it. Something that I believed to be true before I even looked into it. And then when I did, I'm like, oh, alright. Yeah, so a lot of people think that Israel Adesanya isn't the greatest fighter ever to step foot in the octagon. In fact, a lot of people think that he's quite boring and he's quite predictable. And then you add that with his personality being vile and disgusting, that adds up to a lot of people not liking this guy. So why is he supposedly the most popular fighter on the roster after Conor McGregor? That doesn't make sense. So it should be interesting to see who agrees with Sean Strickland's opinion on Israel Adesanya within the MMA community, of course. And my prediction would be that 99% of these morally sensitive freaks won't have the guts to actually tell the truth, and they will continue to perpetuate the lie that we are witnessing the greatest fighter ever to step foot into the octagon.
Shut up, bitch! Oh my God!
So this article kind of roughly says that Adesanya got whooped against Du Plessis and against Sean Strickland. Despite those losses, Adesanya is still a highly revered former champion. But Strickland just doesn't understand the hype around the last arsebender. And neither do I. And I believe that a lot of people actually feel the same way, but just don't get a voice. And they see that their MMA media, either through social media, through YouTube, or just even in the press itself, is constantly pushing a narrative. People have been coerced not to push back, not to have that differing opinion. So many people are watching Israel Adesanya over the years. Unanimous decision, split decision, tippy-tappy fights, running around in circles. And they're like going, I don't know whether I'm a huge fan of that. You turn on your MMA media, either YouTube or ESPN, or even just turn on social media, and you're getting punched and kicked in the face with the fact that Israel is the best thing ever, and we all have to bow down now whilst we have him. That leads people then to question themselves and question their initial opinion when they should have just stuck with it, because I think that Sean Strickland has a massive point here. I have an unpopular opinion. You guys aren't going to like it. I just don't think Izzy is that good. I agree. Strickland said on a podcast last night, so let me tell you why. Like, going into UFC 293, I'm like, I'm gonna beat the F out of this fella. You watch anime, you suck, I'm going to F you up. Everybody is like, why would you say that about Izzy? Who is everybody? Like, who is everybody? A couple of lads with a Nigerian profile over on Twitter, Michael Bisping and Daniel Cormier? That's everybody, I guess. When he fought Kelvin Gastelum, I think Kelvin sucks. Everybody's like, Izzy, this and that. And I've sparred Kelvin so many times where I'm like, so you kind of had a close fight with Kelvin, which was an actual good fight. It was probably one of the best Israel Adesanya fights that I've seen. Like, you're not that effing good. You fought effing Paulo Costa. Costa was scared shitless of you. You blew on him and he fell asleep. Izzy is not that fucking good, guys. Pretty standard. That's a pretty standard thought process that everybody has after watching an Izzy fight. And then they go to their media, then they go watch some YouTube, and then that changes the next day. You're like, oh no man, I think we need to give him props. Strickland said that he spent a lot of time training with Gastelum. Both fighters worked out in Southern California, and ultimately clarified his feelings towards the TUF 17 winner. Yeah, so he goes on to say that Kelvin's a tough guy. They've had loads of fights. I've been in the octagon with him. For him to bring Izzy to a close fight kind of proved to me that he just wasn't that good. And then when Strickland got in there, we saw what he did. He literally walked through him with the most basic rudimental skill set that you'd ever see. Not that it's not impressive, impressive, but it was rudimental in terms of the elite Israel Adesanya. This brings us back to that word chill, which I always use because I think it applies to what we're actually seeing within the MMA community. So we're going to jump over here to Twitter and we'll have a look at what way the MMA community reacted in the aftermath of Dricus du Plessis absolutely destroying Arsbender Adesanya the other night. And when I say destroying, I actually mean it. High skill set, moved forward, brought him down numerous times and choked him out. And he did that in the face of adversity, in the face of the community, the organization, and I guess the fan base in general sticking and falling in behind Israel Adesanya's 13-month racial rant. Let's not forget that Dricus du Plessis was called a colonizer, a
fucking cracker. It's rich coming from someone who owned slaves back in the day,
and was accused of starting the race war. But all of this was inside Israel's head and nobody was calling it out. And in the face of all that, in the face of Israel Adesanya saying that I'm going to end your dreams, I'm going to show you who you are,
whatever that means,
I will gladly drag his carcass across South Africa.
In the face of all that, Dricus walked out there, faced him down, and choked him out easily. And what do we get then within the MMA community online in the aftermath of that humiliation of Israel Adesanya? Well, we get stuff like this. Israel Adesanya has been in MMA for more than 12 years, and this is the first time that he's been submitted and lost 2 fights straight. Unreal from the last stylebender. Okay, it's unreal. Big respect to Israel Adesanya. He should be proud of his performance. He still looked like one of the best fighters in the world. It's rare to become a UFC champion, and it's even more rare to defend the title 5 times like Israel has. Legacy secured, everybody. One of the greatest of all time. Okay, so this is the reaction from MMA outlets over on Twitter. Just because he lost, don't forget, at one point Israel Adesanya had one of the longest undefeated streaks in the sport's history. Things change fast in MMA. Okay. Here we have championship rounds going to bat for Israel Adesanya because he says that he pointed at the ground to tell Dricus that he tripped, not that he was rocked. So he wasn't trying to replicate Max Holloway's infamous pointing at the ground and spanking the head off Justin Gaethje. Israel wasn't trying to replicate one of them coming through me vessel moments. That wasn't what he was doing at all. He was telling Dricus, hey mate, I slipped. Sure. So the MMA media are going to bat for him here, backing him up on this. This is just a recent one that I saw there this morning. Israel Adesanya's longtime teacher dropped a comment on the post back when he was champion. It must be such a dope feeling. Imagine your teacher witnessing you at the top of the world. Full circle moment. And a picture then of the Arsbender himself kind of standing there like a vessel from God. This coverage of Israel Adesanya is all extremely weird in the aftermath of what happened last Sunday when Dricus put him out after him talking shit for 13 months. Very weird. And we even have stories like this. Dana White admits, I called Israel and I apologized. This is all very strange to me that one of the biggest news articles circulating in the last 24 hours regarding Israel Adesanya is that Dana White, the president, is calling Israel to apologize for eradicating Francis Ngannou out of the promo for 305. I don't think that should have happened, but the fact that Israel kicked up a little bit of a stink and got his nose out of joint warrants Dana White having to apologize, and then we get all these articles. John Anik was very quick to jump on the mic when Dricus and Adesanya were embracing after the fight. Very quick to jump on the mic and say, maybe Dricus is apologizing. I nearly fell off the couch. Apologizing for what? So it's clear that he thought that Dricus owed an apology to Adesanya, and Dana obviously owes an apology to Adesanya. Is there anybody in the world or in the MMA community who doesn't owe an apology to Israel Adesanya? Or are we all just living in some weird, bizarre world where it's an unpopular opinion to think that Israel was boring or just not that good? And I mean, all you really got to do is go look at his record, then go look at some of them fights, go look at some of the unanimous decisions, some of the split decisions, and actually just watch some of the fights. And the first thing that will come to mind is, wow, these are boring. Second thing, it's like, okay, I'm not really interested in watching this. And it's not just me, and it's not just you. Trust me, when you just do the minuscule of researches, you'll come across shit like this. The word boring in Israel Adesanya just keeps showing up in articles left, right and center. Khamzat Chimaev believes money could be to blame for Israel Adesanya's boring fights. Fans want UFC to stop Israel Adesanya's world title fights from being boring. That's impossible. Israel Adesanya's boring UFC world title defense blamed on his opponent. Of course, because it would never be him. It would never be him. It's always somebody else with Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya is the most boring UFC fighter in this generation of fighters. Interesting. Here we have the New York Times saying that UFC star doesn't care if you think his fights are boring. Okay. He doesn't care. We get it. And none of it is his fault, by the way. Is Israel Adesanya beginning to stagnate as a fighter? Why else have recent performances been so uneventful in comparison to the fights as a contender and a champion at the start of his reign? Sean Strickland believes it's an unpopular opinion to say that Israel Adesanya is shit and not that good. And I don't think it's an unpopular opinion. I think that we've been gaslit into believing it's an unpopular opinion, and I believe that we just showed with the smallest of searches that there's plenty of articles and plenty of people out there saying the exact same thing. Unfortunately, the morally corrupt, complicit media shills are not going to budge on this one unless we make them, unless we keep on putting videos out like this, unless we keep calling them out for their duplicitous behavior. I think it's important. If any of this made sense, maybe hit like, subscribe and share. Cheers.